Okay, so this is absolute value of x, and it's got some points on it. When you actually, when I move this now, I'm hoping that's all going to move here, right? What happens to the function if I, let's try and get it back to where it was here, right there somewhere. Absolute value of x, if I move it up, I'm also moving it a bit to the side because I'm not perfect with this, but there's up, almost, up 1, absolute value of x plus 1. If it was down here, absolute value of x minus 1. If I move it sideways, what happens to that equation? Okay, there's two things. If I move it sideways here, what changes about that? What value changes when I move it sideways? If I move it to the right, what happens to that function? What happens to the equation? Let's put it back to the middle here. Okay, so I'm saying, look at this, right? If I move it to the right, okay, all those points, if it goes to the right now, I'm also moving it up, but that thing has moved 1.47 units to the right. The equation is absolute value of x minus. When you replace x with x minus something, whatever the function looked like and every single point on it moves to the right. If I was to instead take the original function and move it to the left, okay, almost there, close enough, and I moved it down a bit, but there. That's moved 2.01 units to the left. If you replace x with x plus something, it moves to the left. If you move it up or down, now there's two ways to write it for up or up and down. If you move it up, okay, there I've moved it 1 unit up. Every point has moved up. I want you to watch, and again, I wish I had more fine control of this mouse here, but watch the points as to what happens here. When I move this whole thing up and down, what changes about that? You got to just ignore the slight changes in. What point is changing as I move it up and down? Everything's changing, not just the vertex, but which coordinate out of the points? The y coordinate, right? The y coordinate's changing, except when I slightly move it off the axis. When you make a vertical translation, it changes the y coordinates, not the x coordinates. When you make a change outside of the function, put it back to the middle here. Okay, if I'm going to make a change outside of that function, as in after I apply the absolute value, if it's outside here and says plus 5, how is that going to be? If I put plus 5 on here after the absolute value, what's going to change about these points? Not the x coordinate, the y coordinate. What is it all going to become? If I say I'm going to shift this 5 units up, what's going to happen? The y coordinates are going to become what? If I go 5 units up, so there's pretty close to 5 units up. What's happened there to those what's happened to those points? X values didn't change. Y values are now, okay, we'll go undo and you can see the difference. Ready? Okay, they were the same, right? They were all the same. There's 0, 0, 1, 1. If I redo that, that's what change happened. What change happened when you moved it up like that? Yeah, all the y coordinates changed by 5. The x coordinates didn't move. If I move sideways, okay, if I manage to do this, that's not. Oh, what am I doing here? That's no good. I got to grab everything first. There we go. If I move this to right about here somewhere, where can I move it to? About there. Won't let me put it on. Are you okay if it's 3.01 and not 3? Okay, before I make that change, okay, what's going to change about the points over in the list at the left? If I move to the side there, if I redo this. If I move to the right by 3.01 units, what changes about the coordinates? What coordinates change? X values, Y values? The X values change, not the Y values, right? Y values are the same. If you make a horizontal shift, the X coordinates change. If you make a vertical change, the Y coordinates change. All right? Somewhere under your summary here, I don't know where I left space for a summary. Maybe at this point would be a good spot. I suppose you want to maybe fill out the previous ones first. Doesn't matter where you put this. If x is replaced with x minus h in any function, the graph, and we could call this function f, right? In any function f, the graph of f is translated, or in other words, that means shifted, right? Shifted horizontally by h units. For example, as we said here, if you take y equals square root of x and you change it into y equals square root of x minus 3, whatever this graph looked like, the only change has been x turned into x plus 3. X has been replaced with minus 3. How are those graphs going to be different? How's the new one going to have changed from the first one? If you change x to x minus 3, it's going to have shifted or translated how far and in what direction? This is going to be a, what's it going to be? Horizontal translation by how many units and in what direction? 3 units right. Okay. You looked at it with quadratics last year. You're looking at it with any kind of a function. Even if you don't know what a function looks like, you might not know what y equals cosine of x looks like. But whatever that graph looks like, if I change it to now y equals cosine of x plus 5, even though you don't know what the graph looks like, how is this going to look compared to this? What's going to have happened? Even if you don't know what it looks like, if you make that change, x to x plus 5, what's going to happen? How is that going to be different? It is going to be a horizontal, because we've replaced x. Horizontal translation or shift. 5 units which way? 5 units to the left. Okay? X to x minus 3 goes right. X to x plus 5 goes left. It's the same with the vertical, which we did first. You have a place. I didn't give you a place to put a summary there. You can put the summary wherever you want. I'm going to put it right here, but it doesn't matter. If y is replaced with, it could be exactly the same. If y is replaced with y minus k, as in if you turn y equals f of x into y minus k equals f of x. So if you change y into y minus k, if you replace y with y minus k, which could be written that way or it could be written with the k on the other side, right? It would be plus k over here. These are the same. Okay? The reason that you might like to do it like this is because to emphasize that way of replacing something. This is doing something you did last year, but looking at it in a slightly different way. If you make that change, y to y minus k, what happens? What happens to that? What happens to this graph? How is that going to be different? I can't tell by your silence if you're not understanding or